And for the latest on what's happening in Zambia now, let's speak to our colleague Arthur Davis Scopo, Channel Africa's correspondent in Zambia. Arthur, very good morning to you. Let's just first start with what the mood is like in Zambia at the moment. Elections are always historical in the sense that they give a sense of purpose, euphoria in some quarters that the will of the people has been observed. Given these latest developments, does that sentiment, you know, is it existing? Do people feel like there is something to celebrate?
Thank you so much, and good morning to you, and of course, good morning, and of course, good afternoon, and good evening, obviously, to all those that are listening us to us from different parts of the world. So the mood in the country, I think there hasn't been so much, a change. Of course, certain sectors, of course, are expecting, they're too expectant, and of course, are hoping, for that good time, especially when Hakainde Hichilema is being sworn in. But of course, others, I think it has just been business as usual. And of course, there's no much excitement from others, especially those that obviously have voted for the other side. So the mood is, I think, as calm as possible. Yeah, and but looking at the situation right now, where Brian Mundubile and of course Makebi Zulu have been picked up, there are certain quarters that are very happy with it, and of course the others that are expressing mixed feelings and concerns that this is not obviously the democracy that Zambians have been longing for or have been voting for and all that. So there are all those concerns coming from different sectors from Zambians that voted, others that did not vote, but that have been following politics in the country and that have been following current affairs in the country. So it is that particular mixed type of feeling in the country.
And Arthur, just let's go over these latest developments. I recall that when we spoke more than a week ago, you were actually amongst the first to point out that there are reports that suggest that Mundubile has sought refuge at the UN buildings in Lusaka. So take us through what has happened since we last spoke. What have been the developments that have led to this current situation?
Yes, so from the last time I think we spoke, so we heard that Mundubile had and Makebi Zulu had sought refuge in the from the UN's buildings, and they were there. So we didn't see them. We didn't see any pictures of them coming out. Of course, we could see their supporters or those that have been close around them. We could see them on social media and around, but we didn't see those two, and I think that was confirmation enough that they were in the UN buildings. And of course, as days went, we saw that they were supposed to file a petition, which I think they didn't. They wanted to use their lawyers and of course other persons, but they didn't do that, and because the courts eventually were closed on the last day of when they were supposed to file in that particular petition. So we have not seen them around, and we only saw pictures of them on social media flying out yesterday after we had there was that they were being surrendered to the state, of course, by a UN representative that was sent in to come and mediate in this particular matter, because they had been in the Council of the UN for some time, as we have confirmed now that they were there. So after discussions, with the UN representative that came in to come and mediate in this particular matter, we saw pictures of them flying around on social media. Them entering the command center, which is headed by the police and of course other investigative wings, where they were being questioned, where they were taken, for questioning. We have seen, concerns coming from church mother bodies. In fact, today we're having another press briefing by church mother bodies, where they have raised concern that I think there is need for dialogue between Hakainde Hichilema and of course his closest rival, Brian Mundubile, and of course his running mate, Makebi Zulu. There's need for dialogue so that the country can be calm, because right about now, the feelings out there are quite mixed. Those that support Brian Mundubile are not happy with what is happening. Those that support, of course, Hakainde Hichilema, of course, are happy with what is obtaining. So there are all those mixed feelings. And Mundubile has proved to be, proved from, just from nowhere, to be that particular favorite of people in the country through this particular election. Because, he was just a minister at some point, but when they left government, he was just in the patriotic front, of course, where they had a lot of confusion and leadership wrangles. And Mundubile and Makebi Zulu only popped up at the last minute, and when people thought that Hakainde Hichilema was going to have an easy ride, so Mundubile pulled a lot of numbers in this particular election, and it proved that he's a factor in this particular election. So he has got followers. So his followers are not happy with what he's obtaining, of course, to him, and of course his running mate Makebi Zulu. And obviously they are hoping that this particular issue could be obviously resolved in an amicable way. But he still insists that he got good numbers in this particular election in terms of that is why they wanted to petition against the re-election of Hakainde Hichilema in this particular race.
And I do wonder what analysts in Zambia itself are saying about this situation, as you point out, that they had intended to oppose the election results that have been released by the Electoral Commission, but the judicial system was shut down on the last day in which they had the opportunity to contest those election results. And now we see that police have issued a warn and caution statement on treason charges against them. What is the view of the pundits who've been watching all of these developments, particularly in Zambia?
So there have been a number of concerns coming out, especially from civil society organizations and others that have been following up the current affairs in the country. We have seen the civil society organizations, some of them forming the consortium, and some of them just speaking on their own, condemning the acts of the closure of the courts, and of course calling that the state acts swiftly to lift that particular closure of the court, so that those that had issues at the court, those that wanted to file petitions, those that wanted to do habeas corpus for different cases, could be allowed to do that. We've seen different organizations such as the Law Association of Zambia, which is a body for lawyers in the country, the entire country. We've seen movements such as the women movement, HOCC coming up. We've seen these others, Transparency International Zambia, and many others, coming up and calling for the closure of the courts to be lifted immediately, so that people that wanted to access the courts could do so. And of course, even when it wasn't maybe not maybe in a matter of petitioning, but they said justice was being denied to so many people, not just those that wanted to petition or Mundubile who wanted to petition, but of course we saw one lady, and of course a gentleman, that is Linda Gasonde, and of course Brevna Changala through and also LCK Freedom Foundation, filing in a petition, but they did not file in to the rights, registry. So when filing in a petition in Zambia, you have to file it at the court registry, but they sent it to the Chief Justice, to the private email of the Chief Justice of Zambia. And later we saw, that being rejected, the judiciary, rejecting that, they never received any petition. And I think that is where the matter of, the petition has closed. But of course, the society have continued to speak, for, the rule of law to be respected in the country, and for human rights to be respected in the country, and mostly pertaining to Mundubile's issue, when military raid was carried out at his residence, where a former minister was killed. So these acts have been condemned by, mostly civil society organizations, and of course, those that are, that follow, current affairs, that feel, Brian Mundubile and his running mate Makebi Zulu are being, infringed in terms of their rights. So we have had a number of, concerns coming from all over the country, and from different sectors, such as civil society, and of course the church as well, through church mother bodies. They have been speaking about some of these issues. So there has been concern, and but the prayer is that this may be resolved amicably, where all parties that are concerned, go away, mutually, in a manner that all benefit or all become happy at the end of the day.
Okay, I thought we're going to leave it there, but hopefully we do get to speak about what this action, its impact is on the opposition voice, because what these two politicians have been arguing is that the opposition space in Zambia is closed or is diminishing as a result of what they see as the high-handedness of President Hakainde Hichilema. Arthur Davis Scopo is Channel Africa's correspondent in